Hey Outlander fans, so we are already at episode 6. I honestly can't believe that. I mean, we still have 7 more to go, but we are waiting for something big to happen still, and I think it's going to happen hopefully in the next, like not the next episode, but probably the second next episode. Anyway, I want to talk about episode 6, which was called Blood of My Blood, and there was a lot of, there were a lot of debates about what this episode was going to be about. Like, some assumed that this is when Jamie and Brianna were going to meet, and others thought, oh, maybe William comes in this episode, and it was the latter. So, we got to see young William again, and it was an interesting episode. I wouldn't say it was my favorite, but I like what they did with it. It was kind of like the John Grey William chapter of the season. And I think according to the book we will see John Grey again. But anyway, let me get into the episode. So basically we kick off right where Lord John Grey comes in. He's visiting because he was there for business in Virginia, and he has brought young William with him. Unfortunately, we learned that Isabel, who he married and they were taking care of William, she passed away while on voyage to America, or at least while she was on voyage to Jamaica where he was, I'm not positive. Anyway, so she unfortunately has passed away, which was true to the books. And now William is motherless. He still has John Grey, and he sees him as his father, which is nice. It's interesting to see how their relationship has evolved. But the main thing here is that William, it seems like he doesn't remember Jamie. And if you guys recall from season 3, Jamie was a big part of William's life, because even though he couldn't admit that he was his father, he was still there for him, and he taught him a lot, and he was there till he was about 6 years old, so you would think, even so, if he was a big part of his life, he'd remember him, but he appears not to. So it's very disappointing to Jamie, and he doesn't take that very easily. But of course he puts on a face, because he still has to keep the secret as much as possible. So while Lord John Grey and William are visiting, Murtaugh is still there, and apparently Murtaugh still has kind of a grudge against Lord John Grey, because he was in charge of the prison when he was there. So there's that tension between them, and during dinner it's very uncomfortable, and eventually Murtaugh leaves, though not before Jamie tells him about William. So Murtaugh is very understanding, and he promises to keep the secret just as long as Claire knows. And obviously she learned all about it like last season. So Murtaugh takes his leave in that scene. We don't know if we're going to see him again right away, but I'm sure we're going to see him again. He's kind of a subplot at this point with all the possible riots that are going to be going on. So I'm sure we'll see him again. I still think he's gonna come in at some point, like if we revisit Jocasta. I feel like there's a good chance he's gonna become a part of that subplot, but we'll see. So for the remainder of the episode, there's a lot of emotional issues that are dealt with. So the main one is Jamie and William. So unfortunately, Lord John Grey comes down with a case of the measles, which that was a whole big issue in the last episode. So he has to stay in the cabin, and Claire is going to nurse him back to health. In the meanwhile, or in the meantime, William hasn't had the measles yet, so he's not immune to it. So Jamie decides to take him away and keep him safe for a few days. And this is kind of an awkward thing, because William actually did have a realization the night before. He did remember Jamie later that night, and it's just kind of this awkward thing where he remembers, but okay, this scene was a little confusing to me. I thought, okay, he does remember him, but at the same time, he didn't seem like he remembered everything, but he also seemed hurt at the same time. So it's kind of like there was that pain that was still there. So I wasn't entirely sure by that scene if he exactly knew who Jamie was or if he was just like a slight memory at the moment. But he does start to kind of remember him at least there. So there's that kind of awkwardness going on because Jamie doesn't know how much he can tell him about the past. But eventually, like, as they spend more time together, like, Jamie teaches William all these different things, how to shoot, how to catch fish, and, like, he starts to tell him a little bit about the past, like, what they did, how he taught him things, but William just doesn't seem to be... Here's how I viewed it. So, obviously, William was very hurt. Eventually, he does bring this up. When Jamie left, he kept continuing to ride off on his horse. William ran after him, but Jamie never turned to look at him. So William brings this up, and this is a big clue as to how much this actually really hurt him. So my guess is either, like, he pretended not to know Jamie, or he was so hurt by Jamie's departure that, like, in the back of his mind, all the memories and everything of Jamie were suppressed, and that was his way of coping with the pain. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, it could go either way. But William was obviously very hurt by Jamie leaving. And we learn in this episode just how much he was affected by him leaving. So I like that they covered ground on that because they didn't really get to explore William too much in Season 3. We only saw him a little bit in the 4th episode of Season 3. Because he was, like, the second last 20 minutes of that episode. So I like that they got to reconnect in that sense. And unfortunately, they run into a little trouble when William breaks a little law, because Jamie told him not to fish in the Cherokee land. Unfortunately, that's what William does, of course. So the Cherokee happened to show up at that moment, and there's a punishment that has to be dealt with. So Jamie, afraid that they're going to kill William, he tells them that he's his son, so he will take his punishment. And I'm actually surprised that he said that, because now William knows. And William actually returns the favor before they do something to Jamie. He says, no, it was my fault. I'm the one who should be punished. So just as we think the worst is going to happen, they just do a little cut on the wrist. Just a little blood payment, I guess. I'm not positive what that was exactly, but nothing bad. So, unfortunately, like, that whole incident caused Jamie to reveal to William that he's his father. But William actually takes it... He doesn't take it hard at all. He actually hugs Jamie. I don't know if William quite understood that Jamie really is his father, or he just thinks he said that so they wouldn't hurt him. I don't know. Here's the thing, I watched this episode last night. I was very tired. I wasn't catching everything, and I may have missed some things. But that's just what I got out of it. Probably on a second viewing I'll have a different opinion, but I'm just gonna stick with William. William knows now. So, meanwhile, back at Cabin Fraser, so Claire is nursing Lord John Grey, and it seems like it's awkward. 'cause it is. So there's all this tension, obviously, between Claire and Lord John Grey, because John Grey, he wants Jamie. He's made that obvious since season 3. And Claire has caught on to that rather well, because after she met him in the last season, she could tell that he had feelings. So they're kind of dealing with that because John Grey still hasn't gotten over him. And Claire wonders, I wonder why you traveled all this way from Virginia. Kind of obvious. So there is like a moment where he blames it on the fever later, but let's be honest, he wanted to say these things. He's telling Claire, like, you're upset that I got to spend all those 20 years with Jamie, and he kind of throws a lot of things in her face. So she kind of does some as well. But yeah, they really subtly go at each other. It doesn't turn into like this huge fight, because obviously he's weak from illness, but he is really just like speaking his mind in this moment. So they definitely said what they've been wanting to say to each other this whole time. So eventually, as he starts to heal, they have a more pleasant conversation. She mentions to him how, because she understands how it must be difficult, he couldn't love his wife, and he can't be with somebody that he wants. And she parallels that to when she was with Frank, how she had to be with him and try to make it work and try to feel things for him, and it just wasn't happening. And she also tells him about Brianna, and I keep thinking, it's a really good thing Brianna's going to show up, because she keeps telling people about her. Eventually people are going to want to see the daughter. So it's very timely on Brianna's part. Anyway. So, yeah, they make up, and they have a better understanding of each other, which at least they got that much out of this episode. And eventually, Lord John Grey heals, and then he and William are able to leave. And as they're riding away, William looks back and sees Jamie and Claire watching after them. And I thought that was a really neat thing. I don't know if anybody else thought about this, but how he was saying why didn't you look back when I was calling after you? So I thought that was a really neat way to end the episode, where William, looks back at Jamie, watching him leave, and I thought that was actually really beautiful. I thought that was really well done. So yeah, one more scene in the episode. So Claire and Jamie are having their finally alone together moment. And this is when Jamie presents Claire with her brand new ring. And I think the description from the book, like in the original Outlander book, like the ring matches that better, which I know a lot of people have complained about that. I personally like the key ring. I thought it had more meaning because it was like his home belongs to her. But this is also sentimental because the ring was made from his mother's candlestick, which that's what he had taken in the last episode, and eventually he had Murtaugh work on it. So I thought that was really nice that they did that, because in the book it was originally Frank's ring that was stolen. I guess they did Jamie's ring because it's more unique and there's more sentimental value to it, obviously. So I thought it was nice that they brought in a new ring. However, I'm pretty sure we haven't seen the last of the other ring. And in the next episode, we get to see Brianna in the past. So I don't know if they're not going to cover how she got to the past, or like how she found out about Jamie and Claire's deaths later in the years, but I was kind of figuring that they would show something, but maybe it'll be a flashback, I don't know. But we do see that Roger is contemplating going back in time to go after Brianna. And we also see that Ding Dang Bonnet again. Yeah, he's got a big storyline coming up with Brianna. I know it's coming, so... and I don't know how they're going to do it compared to the books, but I'm gonna just try to ease my mind as I watch this episode. I'm excited to see how Brianna, like, she's supposed to find her family in the past. I don't know if she's going to or not, because the actress who plays Jenny, she's actually, she wasn't able to do this season. So I don't know if we'll see her or not. But there have definitely been behind-the-scenes photos of senior Ian with Brianna, so at least they'll get to meet. I don't know if he's going to introduce her to the other family, or maybe they don't show her at Lallybroch, and they start off with her going into town with him to find a ship, like, to get to America. I don't know. That's just my theory, because we mostly just got the scenes of them in the town, and apparently that's where Leary is. Another fun character we get to see again. So, we'll see. We'll see how they do it. And I just want to get this out there. I know there's a lot of people who compare the books to the show, and I understand. Believe me, I have a trilogy that I read as a teenager, and if they ever made it into a movie, I'd probably be very critical of how they handle it, but at the same time, we all have to just understand that there's changes that happen with adaptations. I mean, maybe there's like one or two that were spot on with the source, but yeah, if you're wondering who that is, that's my cat. So, anyway, it's not an easy thing to translate a book to a movie or a show, especially a show, because there's a lot of ground to cover, and there's just no realistic way of doing it. And I know sometimes they make changes that don't maybe make sense, or maybe they're just kind of unnecessary additions. But at the same time, even if something is flawed, you can't help but love it, you know? 'Cause it's still there, it's still the story. So that's just my opinion. I'm not saying you guys have to feel that way, just that's how I feel. But if I can just share my feelings with you guys, then that's all I ask. Alright, so we get to see Brianna in the past, like I said. I'm excited. And I get the feeling we'll see the Jamie and Brianna meet up either the next episode, or maybe the third episode from now. I'm not sure. But, yeah, we'll see. I'm excited. Alright. So tell me what you guys thought about this episode. What did you guys think about Lord John Grey and William showing up at Fraser's Ridge? And how do you think everything was handled? Alright, so like the video, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and I will see you next week. We are about to go down the rabbit hole. Alright guys, good night and goodbye.